Hello and welcome back to Fizz and Tell. I've got the best-selling author now, number one best-selling author as of today, which is really exciting to have you here, Amanda Hart. So Amanda, I'd love you to introduce yourself to our lovely viewers and tell us a little bit about who you are, and then I can't wait to deep dive and understand more about this incredible book and your wonderful incredible journey that I've only just started to scratch the surface on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this lovely introduction. It's just a little bit surreal at the moment. The book was launched yesterday and we made the bestseller list, number one in 3 categories. I think we did it within 8 hours. So it's just, it's incredible. And we got into one of the main categories, hit number 5 under, after books like Eckhart Tolle, with The Power of Now, sort of seeing your book sitting there with these iconic authors. It's it kind of hits home. It sort of reminds you how much you've put into this and how big the journey has been. So yeah, I think it was a kind of a surreal moment. So yeah, I really have been in this space for about 20 odd years, or 20 or nearly 30 years actually, and I help mentor people using the intuitive faculty so that we can find out what's holding them back. It's often cycles or repeated patterns of destructive behavior that they cannot get out of, and they've tried all sorts of different modalities, and they come to me through recommendation really, to help them to push through their glass ceiling, to find out what it is that's blocking them right now, to do the healing on that level, because we can play with time and space when you work with the subconscious, which is wonderful. And then we can have a very different outcome. So that's in a nutshell what I do.
That's a really great snapshot, isn't it, of the work
Yes.
you do.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what inspired me to connect with you. I love following your work and the groups that you've created around the work that you do. And Fizz and Tell is all about inspiring and empowering women in this midlife space that we've never had that luxury of exploring and enjoying. We were written off as my very first interview with Alana Kirk. When we look at the history of women, once we've had children and we can't have any more children, we were almost written off in the old days. So this whole new era that we're living in, and this sort of new revolutionary state for women and being empowered during midlife is a wonderful one, but it's a very challenging one for a lot of people as well. And I think that's one of the areas that the reason I wanted to do Fizz and Tell was to bring people like you and showcase the work that a lot of us do and the journeys that we've been on, because they've not been easy to get us to this place. And I think your book, Sue Me, is part of the discussion around your particular journey. So I'd love you to give our viewers a snapshot of what that journey's been to get you to where you are today.
Yeah, it's incredible. Just with you saying that, I just remember standing in my mother's kitchen at a party, and she was 44 years old, and somebody said to her, so this relationship you're in now, is it love? And she said, love? She said, what's love got to do with it? I'm 44. I'm on the shelf if I don't have somebody in my life. And this was she had a very powerful job. She was chairwoman of a company at one stage in her life. She had a lot of status, but she felt that was her life over if she didn't have somebody meaningful in her life, the other half, so to speak. And I think that's the thing. I have explored so many different ways of trying to overcome challenges that I've gone through life, because I grew up in a very, it's on the outside, it was a seemingly respectable family. My father was an entrepreneur. He was very successful. He had all the trappings that people would look up to, but inside that house, there was a lot of deep, dark secrets, and it was a harrowing upbringing. So for 14 and a half years of my childhood, I learnt to survive, and I'm talking about surviving on a huge scale. It was incredibly challenging, and there wasn't a day that I didn't go through that I thought, well, I don't think I might see, I don't think I'll see tomorrow. There was every day I thought this was my last. And when I came out of that, I assumed, like a lot of people do when they come out of adversities, great, I've got freedom, I can do anything I want now. Nobody's going to hold me back. What I didn't know at the time was that I was packed full of negative conditioning that I had picked up from childhood, and I was carrying it around like a rucksack full of rocks. And then I went from one disaster to another, one disastrous relationship, money problems. It was like I wasn't seen. In fact, it was more than that. It was almost as if, who is this person? What is she doing in this world? Let's just get rid of her. And I think what happened was that the trigger point for me was when I I lost my daughter. My daughter was taken from me. And I was so desperate then. It was no longer about me. It was about, how do I now find that child? How do I make sense of everything? And that was the point where I started to look at, well, how did I survive when I was a child? I'm obviously failing now, but I survived as a child. So why can't I do that now? And I realized that as a child, I had this incredible intuitive faculty. And that's because I used to get thrown out into the garden quite a bit. So I spent a lot of time around animals and nature. And that was my happy place. It was my sanctuary. It was where I found peace. It was where I found unconditional love. So I recognized that there was something in that. And that's what not pushed me, but got me very inquisitive about the spiritual world. I realized that the orthodox means the police, the health system, nobody could help me, but I knew that there had to be a way. And it was the only, in a desperate attempt, the only way I could actually start to rationalize what was going on and start finding solutions. And I did start to find solutions. That was the thing. The more solutions I found and the more sense it made to me about my journey, I could see then that I was changing, but the more that I was attracting opportunities to change. And it seemed like I was magnetically pulling this towards me. And, obviously, many years later, and I've gone through quite a lot of challenge to overcome that. I started again when I had more children. I started another family. I started again. I was still on that journey, that path, trying to look for that missing child. It's like it's not like grief, because when you grieve, there's a process. When you've lost something and you can't fill that void, there's this desperate yearning to fill it. And my only way of filling that was to find this child. So I think that was my driver. And eventually I had a young family, and I was still finding challenges, but I started drawing on those spiritual practices, and I was going through change. And as I was going through change, people around me were then saying, well, hang on, what are you doing? And it was because I didn't want to waste time. I'm one of those, I'm a typical Capricorn, get on with it, very stoic. Let's sort what's the science behind all this? I need all the answers written down for me to prove that this spiritual nonsense is actually making sense to me, and then I'll get on with it. So I kind of did, went through the backbreaking testing of every sort of theory I possibly could. And as I started to find these very quick solutions, I started applying them. People saw that I was making changes, and then they were starting to come to me and saying, hey, my life's a mess. Can you help me too? And that's pretty much how it started, really. And that was about, 20 odd years ago.
And people often say, is it intuition? Is it sixth sense? Is it all of these things? And it's interesting that you tapped into it as a child. I used to go into the bottom of the garden. I loved the garden. The garden was my sanctuary as a child. So I so resonate with what you're talking about. And I still love the garden. The garden is still my happy place. And I think when you're connected to nature, and there's slight vulnerability when you're outside as well, anything could fall on your head, anything can happen, but you expose yourself, don't you, to so many things. And if you just give yourself that quiet space, often I find my answers to my problems and my solutions come when I give myself headspace. And even my son was saying to me the other day, he said, "Oh, Mum, I'm really sad we've kind of moved from the forest into a town." He said, "But I still go to the forest just to walk and to think and to gather my feelings." And I think we don't know how to use nature and tap into our intuition to problem solve. It's kind of, we've been conditioned not to, yet it's a natural default really for most of us to do it when we're younger. So what advice can you give to people to tap back in?
I think this is the thing. We have this bit of equipment, which is the brain. And this is, now obviously I work in this field, and I'm passionate about this subject. And when I run retreats, we do them out in nature. We really do strip ourselves back, because it's the easiest way to remind the brain how it's supposed to operate. And we really resonate with the blueprint of nature, like we do with the blueprint of the animal kingdom. We all have this incredible piece of kit that we can use to find our solutions, to have a good life, to have best health, and have good relationships. Because we get bombarded with, technology and, all the stress of everyday living. We operate more in the beta frequency, and that disconnects us from what we call our source. And when we go out into nature, instantly it turns on. Alpha turns on the frequency that reminds us of our best self. So we don't even have to say, "Hi, I'm here. Can I have my best self, please, today?
Help me today." I say that on a regular basis, man. I don't stand outside, even if it's raining. I go, "Right, just give me some help."
Exactly, and that's it. We as soon as we do that, we don't even have to say it. Our higher nature says, "Hey, I want to be my best self." So it's already there for us. It's already, it's like Chat GBT. It's already there, outlined for us, and all the answers
just discovered that one.
That's another story.
It's for another day.
Going out into nature is an incredible source of inspiration. I've had, in fact, the way that I actually came up with the idea to launch this book the first time around in 2015, it was so unbelievable. I was being made bankrupt because I had a serious illness. I was losing 2 businesses. I was losing my home, my car, all our assets, and I had 2 kids that were dependent on me at that time. And all I had left in this world was this part-written book in my computer. It wasn't even in my hand. And I got this inspiration which said, "You've got to finish this book. This is going to save you." So I happened to be I had a friend who came to see me, and we were walking in the woods. We went off for a walk in the woods, and I was talking to him and saying, "All I've got left in the world is this part-written book." And from that conversation in those woods, I came up with this incredible solution. And he said to me, "Oh yeah, I know how to help you with that." So it just happened to be a coincidence that he was meeting me at that time. We were in the woods. We let go of everything that didn't serve us. The solution came through, and literally I started this Kickstarter campaign, and within a month I had the funding to help me to publish that book, which changed my life. And that's the story. That's the book that has been repurposed. I've edited it, and it's an updated edition to include what's going on today. So this is where I go to whenever I'm finding solutions, because we open up what we call the genius potential. We open up alpha, and then if we're trying to let go of anything, automatically that will transmute down into the ground to be, to sort of recycled, really. And we get these thoughts that come through to give us, the challenges that we need to take action to create the outcomes that we're looking for. So it's, nature is not just for just feeling good. It's there to help us to find our solutions.
it's an incredible channel, actually, nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think all too often, and it's interesting that you say with your retreats, with the couples and singles and the relationship retreats that I run, as much of it as possible, I do outside, as much as possible. And the first set of exercises, the letting go exercises, all of those things, the connecting with yourself exercise is all done, whether it's raining, snowing, unless there's a danger to life, we are outside. And I think I did that intuitively, not realizing what you're saying about all the other benefits to being outside for something like this, the whole connected nature. And when you were saying about your friend, you happened to be with your friend who had the solution, isn't it funny how when you set an intention of doing something, the right people come into your life to facilitate that? It all falls into place.
Yeah. And that's the wonderful thing about it. Again, and it's really lovely because we were in that category in spirituality, and Rhonda Byrne's, the Law of Attraction book was number 1, and I'm number 5, and I'm thinking that's really interesting because I wholeheartedly love this concept, because people understand that that there is stuff that they can manifest. What happens more often than not is that people put out there what they want to create, but then they don't understand why they're not actually attracting it. And the only thing that's stopping them is they're not in right alignment. Basically, they're walking down the wrong path. They're heading off towards the city, and really it's in that direction out towards the woods. So if we also apply putting ourselves into alignment, and that's using techniques to help the mind to become balanced and in harmony, so it's talking, the right and left hemisphere is talking to itself, talking to each other, then we're in the right place at the right time, and we see more of those synchronistic, coincidental incidents where we meet the right people and the right opportunities at the right time.
And I'm
so it's
a firm believer of that. I really am. And one of the very first books I read sort of out of my teens was the Celestine Prophecy.
Oh, fantastic book, fantastic series.
And incredible how it's all about alignment. It's all about attracting the right positive things in your life, but it's also about ditching the negative, walking away, turning your back on what's negative in your life as well, and having the courage to do that. And at any age, and I sort of embrace anybody who just says, I'm ready to make that change. I really am ready to make that change, but I don't know how. And that's something obviously you do with people, which is so powerful, on that subconscious deep level of just helping them shift gear, really.
Yeah. It's actually, I mean, not many people know. Some people know that are following me that there's been a change. The coincidence with the book coming out is that we started this process, months and months ago. I had no idea I was going to go through a major life change myself. Every time I've written a book, and I've written several now, and I've contributed to other books, every time I write a book, something happens, and I say to myself, oh gosh, here we go again, what's going to happen?
It's a rebirthing, isn't it?
This was the biggest life change I could have imagined this time. And I did get to a point where I said, guys, I think, and this was several weeks ago, I think I just need to tell you that this has just happened, and I don't know whether to pull this or carry on, but my instincts are saying carry on, because everything is going to be okay. I had no idea how I was going to pull it off, but I just go into the zone, keep in alignment, and just trust and get the messages, and I just follow that path. And it has just been the most sensational unfolding, really. I've witnessed this and realized that actually it was meant to be, because it re-emphasizes more so the power of taking your life by the reins and saying, actually, I can change direction at any time. I can have choice over what I do. And most people find that the change doesn't become it's not difficult to actually make the change. It's actually making the decision to make the change that's the hardest for people.
Yeah.
Because I do have a lot of people say, I really want to work with you because this is what I want to do. but trying to actually make that decision and say, yeah, I'm going to start now, people find incredibly difficult. And it's almost a catch-22. You've got to overcome that fear to say, I'm going to do it. And take a leap. You know, it is really that Susan Jeffers thing. It's, you know, feel the fear and do it anyway. But trusting in your heart that it is the right path.
And it is about that trust. It's trusting in your heart, it's trusting in the universe, it's trusting in yourself as well, that you can actually do it. I mean, 3 years ago, my whole life turned upside down. Everything I knew, from work, relationships, home, family, the whole thing just went up in the air, and I was handed this empty box again. And right, what am I going to do with it? I can either sit and wallow and think, you know, give myself a pity party, but that's not going to get me very far. Or I don't believe in pity parties. Or I can actually put into practice everything that I've learned so far, that I know and I have proof of works, and make something different, and change everything. And it's the most exciting, thrilling, nerve-wracking thing that anyone can do. But once you're on that path, it spirals, and it almost creates its own energy and takes on its own energy, doesn't it? And
it does.
You kind of think all of these things fall into place. It all aligns, as if, well, you weren't on the right path in the first place, so we're going to throw everything up and let's just restart. Let's press refresh right now. We're pressing refresh. Let's get on with it. And that's kind of what happened.
That's exactly how it works. And I think that the misconception is that people think that if I take this leap of faith, it's going to go wrong, or that it's going to be hard work, or it's going to cost me a fortune, or it's, you know, it's and all these excuses come out. And the thing is, all the excuses are only attached to that one fear, and that one fear is only related to something that's happened in your past. And the easiest thing is that actually we start on day one. On day one, we look at what the fear is now, what's going on for you right now, and we go back and we link it with what happened in the past, and we pull the thread from the past, because that's how you change time and space. If you change what happened in the past, the thinking mind is no longer emotionally attached to it. It still observes it and says, oh yeah, that happened. We can't change what happened, but we can change how we react to it now, because we're desensitizing ourselves to it. And I learned a lot of this as a hypnotherapist, but I realized that actually I was only helping 50% of people, because 50% of people are suggested that they will suggestible, they are able to overcome programs. But then I got frustrated and thought, well, hang on a minute, if 50% could do it, why can't the other 50%? There had to be another way. And I actually discovered that there had to be more to it. You have to work on all levels. That's the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And it wasn't just about the mind or the emotions. I knew that if we worked from the spiritual level, then we would effectively work on all levels. Therefore, we could take it to another level. And that means that the majority of people that work with these principles, as long as they are open and ready, and they've chosen to do this and they've made the decision, are able to overcome whatever they're trying to overcome, and find opportunity. And opportunities tend to come to them better than they expected. And that's because they were before thinking through limited beliefs. And then without those limited beliefs, suddenly it opened up their true potential, which means that the outcome is much better. But you kind of have to get past that. That's the thing. It's getting past the fear.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting? Because it doesn't matter what space we work in, every single person that I've interviewed so far from Fizz and Tell, there's one underlying thing that holds everyone back, and it's fear. It goes back to fear for everybody. And I love the way you sort of short circuit the process of, yes, there's an emotional, spiritual, physical, psychological, there's all of those elements, and we can have any one of those approaches. But it's interesting that actually by taking a spiritual approach, you're encompassing everything within that. So I'm fascinated. I want to have another deep dive with you just on that one particular element.
It's a whole, you know, I mean, I teach this in a whole weekend. It's incredible, but basically we are fundamentally energy. And if we work in the energy field, which is, you know, if you work with the spiritual faculty, you tap into everything, then that's how people find, you know, suddenly that their health has improved, or their sleep has changed. I mean, and it's not, you know, it's not something that takes forever. I've just worked with somebody in Australia. I've got a lot of Australian clients, and he had not only relationship difficulties, he had physical difficulties, mental and emotional difficulties too. And if people really step back, they will find, well, actually, they'll look at it and they'll say, well, actually, that's challenging me, and so is this. And yeah, my relationships aren't too good. And yeah, money-wise, I could be doing better, or I could be doing the thing I really love to do. And within 6 weeks, 3 sessions, we had not only, or he had overcome whatever he was challenged with, but more of the things that he didn't even realize were challenging him. And suddenly he came up with, you know, a solution. He suddenly put in a proposal for something. Through his work, his boss suddenly realized that this was going to change the way they worked and save the company a fortune. It was giving him an extra income, but it suddenly had a knock-on effect with how he felt about himself, and then suddenly the health started just kicking into place as well. So
but it's all linked, isn't it, Amanda? The whole lot is linked. I always find that when you deal with one area of your life, and it has this huge knock-on effect that affects everything about you. And I think this is when I was a business coach, and I realized, actually, to sort people out in business, they needed to sort themselves out, their relationship with themselves and their relationship with other people. Then everything else falls into place. So it's the same sort of thing that you're talking about, is when you work on you as a person. It's no surprise to us, we're used to it, but it's no surprise when it has this huge knock-on effect that health improves, wealth improves, stress improves, sleep improves, everything. And I think it's one of those things that when you feel off kilter, you've got to think, okay, I'm feeling a bit off kilter, I'm not sleeping, this is happening. What is it? Is finding, you know, what it is that's out of balance. And you know, I've seen the wonderful work that you do, and that's why I was particularly drawn to you, because of the way you work in this energetic way. We kind of switch off, don't we? That we are energy. we're just an energetic being, and we kind of switch off to that fact. Almost we become robotic to the fact that we're made up of all these other elements, really.
Yeah. And I think also the other misconception is people think, oh, well, I can't work like that because it's a spiritual thing and I don't really believe in any of this. But actually, I work with a lot of people who are, you know, they work in many different, you know, walks of life. You know, they could be a solicitor, a teacher. I work with a lot of policemen, you know, people who just know that there's something not quite right. As long as they know that, hang on, I think there might be another way, because what I'm trying to do here, running on this treadmill and keep getting the same results, is not working for me. So it's, as long as people say, look, I'll just give it a crack anyway, that's when suddenly this door opens, and we have this vortex of stuff sitting there, really waiting to pour through for us. So it's an incredible way of working. And I guess it's because I've tried and tested this so many times, for selfish reasons, obviously, because I was going through crisis.
Well, you find these things through crisis, though, don't you? If you don't go through these mini and massive crises in our life, we wouldn't come onto the paths that we've come onto. So they're a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. And also, you know, I had the other day, my friend said to me, one of my friends, and she's very spiritual, but she did say to me, now, Amanda, now that you've got to this level, and you know, you've gone through this crisis again, I know you're doing very well with the book, but do you think, you know, you might learn by this situation and be able to get the help so that, you know, next time it's all going to be okay? And I said, well, actually, you know, remember, I've been doing this for 50, you know, I'm almost 57. And every time I've done this, I've come out of it better and better and better. And I've helped more and more and more people. Don't you think by now that you might realize that actually this is what I do? This is just the way it is. I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't change anything. People say, gosh, that's, that's a hell of a claim to say when they read my story, because there are some harrowing experiences and, and many, many times where I just didn't think I was going to get through. And so something just says to me, well, actually, I'm supposed to be here. And whenever I get into that situation, I go, yeah, well, there's obviously a solution because I'm supposed to be here. I've got work to do, haven't I?
I know when something gets thrown at me, I go, here we go again. Okay, here we go again. How am I going to find a solution to this? Who's going to come into my life to help fix this one? It's almost having that faith and that belief and that trust that if you're thrown more and more, if it's more thrown at you, I mean, someone always said to me, well, you're only given what you can cope with. And I said, I'm not sure I actually believe that, but I do now. But I do in some ways, because
I know it's
broken.
I'm glad you pulled that up. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, Genevieve. This is a classic. People think that, oh, it's just my bad luck, or it's because of my father that's happening, or it's because of my husband, or whatever. It's not. We are given this because we can cope with it. If we can cope with it, there's a solution. So therefore, if we just learn what's going on now, do the healing from the past, then we get the reward of what it's trying to show us. And it's not trying to make us uncomfortable. The universe isn't compassionate. It doesn't look at us and go, oh God, I feel really sorry for her today. She's having a really hard time. I think I'll just, send her this by Amazon Express. It literally sends us the challenge that we need so that we can look at it and say, hang on a minute, what do I need to do about this? And then it gives us opportunity to transmute that. And the worse the situation, the better the outcome. There's a polarity thing that's going on. It's much like nature. If we have a forest fire, even though we've lost all these beautiful trees, it leaves enriched mineral soil for new life to begin again. And so therefore there's always this cycle that's going on within nature and within the animal kingdom and within our kingdom. But we have more control over it. And the only thing that holds us back from our destiny, from our dreams and desires, is fear. And fear is an illusion. It's not real. It doesn't exist. It's something that's stamped on something in the past that says, oh, hold, and it's doing us a favor. It's trying to help us to survive, but it's outdated. It doesn't exist anymore. It's not going to serve us now. So all we need to do is go into the closet, take all those things out, chuck them in the bin, and then we can get on with what we're supposed to be here to serve.
It's incredible. And I always say to people, the more you almost put yourself out there, yes, you're going to have more challenges, but you're going to have more growth, you're going to have more opportunities, and you're going to look back at some point and go, wow, what a hell of a ride I've just had.
Why wouldn't you want to? I mean, we either come into life,
fear that holds you back if you don't, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that this is it. We either, I always say that there are certain people that go to work, come home, and they watch EastEnders and think it's a documentary. That's fine. They that life doesn't really challenge them that much. And then there are people that sort of bounce from, one catastrophe to the other. And then there's those in between. I think that if we are given this beautiful emotional radio, all the way from joy down to guilt, because guilt is the lowest human emotion, then if we don't experience all those different emotions, then we're not really existing. Why were we given them? So therefore, if we have a broader understanding of our emotional radio, then we have better choices. We know then that we can take bigger risks, but measured risks, because we know that what the outcome could be and how that would actually benefit us. And some things are uncomfortable, but we have to attract those things to become comfortable so that we can create change. So, why wouldn't we want to make the most of all of this life? It's too magical to just let it pass by.
No, I agree. And Amanda, I mean, we could talk all day. We really could. But I know you've got other things to do. But I would love to bring you back on again. And I'd love to know, obviously I'm going to put a link in so everyone can download or buy this. I mean, I've got it coming in paperback because I love paperback books.
Yes.
But people can get their copy on Amazon, and we'll put a link in. It's called Sue Me by Amanda Hart. It is a #1 bestseller, and it's so exciting that you're here today, 24 hours.
Thank you.
So,
I know, it just seems
share in this
surreal.
joy, really. So
Oh, bless you.
thank you so much, and I can't wait to read the book to hear the rest of your story, because I'm sure it's, you know, I've read the people that have had the pleasure of reading it early on, and the wonderful inspirational quotes that people have put on the back of, this is a game changer. So
Yeah.
you know, those are things that I think we need more books like this in our life, and the fact that it's done so well shows that people need to hear exactly what you've got to say, which is incredible.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, as I say, I didn't write it, but originally I wrote it for myself, for my children. So yeah, I just feel very touched and humbled that it's helping change lives.
Well, thank you for your contribution, and thank you again. If you want to learn more about the wonderful Amanda Hart, please follow her. She's got a wonderful group that you can follow on Facebook. That's, Amanda, tell us the name of the group on Facebook. So
Yeah, it's Empowering Women HQ.
yeah.
So there's so many women globally in that group, just all inspiring one another and doing fantastic work.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll put a link to wherever this is being published. You'll have a link to Amanda's book. Please like and subscribe and share the stories of Fizz and Tell. We're here to sort of change women's lives and inspire women in this incredible midlife journey that we are now, you know, very delighted to be part of. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you very soon. And Amanda, we would love you to come back very soon to tell us, you know, what the next book's going to be.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
I'd
everyone.
love to share. Thank you.
We'd love that. Thank you.